The year 1939 was a dark and dangerous time. Europe was teetering on the edge of a catastrophic war. Just a few months earlier in September, Nazi Germany had invaded Poland. This brutal act triggered a chain reaction. Britain, honoring their pledges, declared war on Germany. France, honoring their pledges, declared war on Germany. The Second World War had begun. The continent held its breath. But while all eyes were on Hitler's aggression in the West, another powerful dictator was making his own moves in the East. Joseph Stalin, the leader of the Soviet Union, had his own imperial ambitions. He had just signed a secret pact with Hitler, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, which essentially carved up Eastern Europe between them. Stalin looked north, towards his small neighbor, Finland. He saw a long, difficult-to-defend border stretching over 1,300 kilometers. From his perspective, the Finnish frontier was dangerously close to Leningrad, one of the Soviet Union's most important cities. He worried that an enemy power, like Germany, could use Finnish territory as a launchpad for an attack. Stalin believed he needed a buffer zone to protect Leningrad and secure his control over the Gulf of Finland. He demanded that Finland cede strategic territories, parts of the Karelian Isthmus, several islands, and allow the Soviets to build a naval base on the Hanko Peninsula. The Finns entered into tense negotiations with the Soviets, but they refused to give up their sovereignty. They were a proud and independent nation, having only escaped Russian rule 2 decades earlier. They offered some minor compromises, but for Stalin, it was all or nothing. He was not a man accustomed to being told no. Frustrated by the Finnish refusal, he decided to take what he wanted by force. On the bitterly cold morning of November 30th, 1939, the storm broke. At 6:50 in the morning, under a dark winter sky, Soviet artillery batteries along the border opened fire. A terrifying barrage of shells rained down on Finnish positions. It was the signal. Without a formal declaration of war, the Red Army launched its massive invasion. 500,000 Soviet soldiers organized into 4 armies poured across the frontier. They advanced along several major axes. Main thrust aimed at the Karelian Isthmus, the shortest route to Helsinki. Simultaneously, the Soviet Air Force began its assault from the skies. Bombers appeared over 16 Finnish towns and cities. At 9:15, air raid sirens wailed in Helsinki. Many residents thought it was a drill. Then the bombs began to fall. Attacks struck civilian areas. Attacks struck streets. Attacks struck buildings. The goal? Terrorize the population and break their will. The world was shocked by images of a capital bombed. The invasion was a multi-front assault to slice Finland in two. This line would have to hold the primary onslaught. The reaction inside Finland was not one of panic, but of grim determination. The unprovoked attack united the nation in a way nothing else could have. Political rivalries that had divided the country for years simply melted away. A powerful sense of national unity, which the Finns called the spirit of the Winter War, took hold. The bombing of Helsinki and other cities did not break their morale, it hardened it. People rushed to volunteer to donate money to do whatever they could to support the war effort. This incredible resilience was embodied by the Finnish soldiers. They were not a professional standing army like the Red Army. Most were reservists, farmers, lumberjacks, office workers who were called up to defend their homes. What they lacked in equipment, they made up for with their skills and spirit. They were masters of winter warfare. They knew how to survive and fight in the deep snow and sub-zero temperatures that would cripple the less prepared Soviet troops. They moved silently on skis, camouflaged in white, appearing like ghosts out of the forest to strike and then vanish. This spirit of gritty courage and perseverance is known in Finland as sisu. The first battles were a brutal test of this spirit. Lacking proper anti-tank guns, they developed the Molotov cocktail, a simple but effective petrol bomb which they used with deadly accuracy against the Soviet tanks. The dense forests, frozen lakes of the Finnish landscape became a weapon in themselves, turning into a death trap for the road-bound Soviet divisions. The challenges were immense, yet their bravery was legendary. While the Soviets measured their strength in divisions and tanks, the Finns measured theirs in sisu. The invasion of Finland sent shockwaves across the globe. While the world was preoccupied with Germany, the Soviet Union's blatant aggression against its tiny neighbor sparked outrage. In Western capitals, there was widespread condemnation. The conflict was often portrayed as a simple David versus Goliath story, a plucky democracy standing up to a totalitarian monster. This narrative captured the public imagination in countries like Britain, France, the United States. The League of Nations, the international body created to prevent such conflicts, proved utterly powerless. It officially condemned the Soviet aggression, and in a symbolic but ultimately meaningless gesture, expelled the USSR from its membership on December 14, 1939. This was the only time the League ever expelled a member state, but it did nothing to stop the fighting. While governments offered words of support, tangible military aid was slow to arrive and limited in scope. Many countries were hesitant to provoke Stalin directly. Volunteers from Sweden, Norway, Hungary, and elsewhere did travel to fight for Finland, but they were too few to change the strategic balance. The first day of the Winter War became a pivotal moment in the history of the 20th century. It exposed the brutal nature of Stalin's regime and the cynical reality of his pact with Hitler. It demonstrated that the Second World War was not just a conflict against Nazism, but a wider struggle between competing totalitarian ideologies and the democracies caught between them. The initial Finnish successes against the Red Army also had a profound impact. They shattered the myth of the Red Army's invincibility, a miscalculation that would later influence Hitler's decision to invade the Soviet Union in 1941. Ultimately, November 30, 1939, is remembered as the day Finland's finest hour began. The legend of the Winter War, born in the snow and ice of that fateful November day, became an enduring inspiration for all nations facing a powerful aggressor.